Welcome to the chair.
Wow, I'm honored. This is a true honor to be here. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, okay, we got the whole.
You got
setup
cameras,
going.
yeah.
Oh shoot,
Yeah,
we outside.
Part of the culture here is, you have to compliment me before we get started.
Okay.
Yeah. My first question here is, do you think I look like Taylor Rooks today?
Yes.
Okay.
So 100% giving
Thank
Taylor
you.
Rooks,
Thank
and
you.
I think you should be proud of that accomplishment as well.
I am.
I'm glad.
I am. This is like the final step of my obsession of her. And for those of you at home who don't know, Taylor Rooks is sports Frankie. I feel like she's sports Frankie in every. We almost look alike. Obviously, she is a heaven sent from Earth, sent down to Earth. But, she embodies everything I want to do.
Absolutely. Did you show the football earrings?
Oh,
you got to showcase the football, because I feel like you did it, but it wasn't
theme. Yeah, I didn't yesterday. Not as much as I did, but I had a huge sparkly football at the premiere.
You did. And that was tight. Yeah, the fits have been on point, on theme. Yeah, you
gotta do it. Thank you. So
let's give her a props.
Thank you. So for everyone at home who's read the title or can't tell, we are talking about the new film Him by Justin Timpen, who's directing, and starring Marlon Wayans and Tariq Withers and Julia Fox. I'm joined today with Isaiah Washington.
What's up?
Who shares the name of the main character played by Marlon Wayans.
Yes.
But you're an influencer, an actor, a singer, a rapper, a comedian, media personality. Why are you making that face? Do you not do all of those
I guess
things?
I do. I'm just, when you're listening it like that, I was like, oh wow, that's
do you not act? Do you not sing? Do you not rap?
I guess I do those things. Yeah. Well,
you
cool.
do comedy. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think there's just a part of my self-esteem, or just being like, all right, that's all those things. But I couldn't disagree with anything that you were saying. I'm like, okay, sure.
Accept your accomplishments. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and for everyone at home, I chose Isaiah specifically because you are from the South.
Yes, I'm from South Carolina. 843 represent. You already know the vibe. Somerville, Munns Corner, Goose Creek. We outside.
Yeah, I know what all those things mean. Thank you. I know what all those things mean. You're also into sport. You like sports.
Yeah, I do. I love sports. I love sports, football especially. And that's why I was really excited for the movie, leading up to it. And what I tell you, the first thing that I said when we got out of it, I was like, that was authentic. That was an authentic movie, from the jump.
Yeah, I definitely felt like it was a very culture heavy film.
For sure.
So I was excited to see your reaction to it, and other people who are from the South and who are part of football culture. Me, myself, for those of you at home, I actually never really got into football, but I worked with football players for a very long time. I, in my former life, used to work in kinesiology, which is the study of movement. I did an internship at UF, so I worked with the Gators. And then I got my grad degree at the University of Arkansas, which are the Razorbacks. And I got to work with the football team there. But I never went to the games, really. I never really went to the games. I never got into the culture. To me, it did feel cultish while I was in both states. I remember when I was in Florida, people at Miami wouldn't drink Gatorade because it was made at UF. And I was like, Gatorade's delicious. What are y'all hydrating with?
Not here.
Not here.
They delicious here.
Powerade is objectively worse. And you're doing it just off of graduate.
Absolutely.
Was weird. But, I did see my research and the things that I worked on were the effects of football on the body. And truly, at the time, I was working to find out different ways for longevity with these players, right? Implementing things like Pilates and like rehabilitation afterwards.
For sure.
And truthfully, even just a minimal, minute change was celebrated and pushed and be like, we're on the forefront of innovation here. So yeah, we'll get into that commentary in a second.
For sure.
But let's start with a quick synopsis and a spoiler warning. This is a spoiler review. We're going to be here yapping about the film. So if you care about spoilers and you haven't seen it, now's your time to dip, because we're going to say everything that happened.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to talk about it. But before you go, I'll tell you the synopsis if you're curious. The plot follows the trials of a young up-and-coming football player training at an isolated compound of an aging, nearly retired quarterback. That sounds so harsh when you hear it, but like,
yeah, I
that's
mean,
the
even
movie.
truly, that doesn't even really sound terribly harsh. Like,
You don't think it sounds really
no,
harsh?
that's what I'm saying. It's like the authenticity of the movie. It's like, yeah, people do that.
Yeah.
People, you like go to boot camp, football boot camp.
It feels really weird to say aging, retired quarterback, and then you look at Marlon Wayne.
Yeah,
He's in impeccable shape. And yeah, he's, I believe, in his late 40s, early 50s, but not enough to be like aging, retired. And I mean, we'll get into the language that's around football overall, but it's very interesting at the shelf life of football players and the way that we describe them overall. And I think that's something that the movie really tackles very well.
For sure. I mean, it's really interesting that you would even say that about like Marlon being described. Like Marlon, because I'm not really sure what his age is, but you're saying like in late 40s. But most football players, you're probably out of there by age 35, which is young.
Yeah.
Like that is, in the grand scheme of things, that is still very young. So a lot of the times you are, when you're retiring from, the career that is going to pay for the rest of your life or whatever, you do still look young because you're, in your mid 30s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Most of the time, most football players aren't really even approaching 40, or just approaching 40.
There is a comic book from Image. I believe it's called The Wicked and the Divine. And in it, it's about gods that take over the bodies of people on Earth. And they do it once every century. And whoever they take over their body, they do it for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And and after that, the people die. So, you get to be a god for 2 years and then you die.
That's it.
And I think what's really interesting of what they explore is like a lot of these people are excited and willing to do these things because you get to be a god for 2 years. And my life is over at 20. These gods choose very young people, right? They want to be high while they're on Earth. And, every young person is very acceptant, very open about it because they're like, why would I want to live after being a god for 2 years? And I think that line of thinking is a way that football players think as well, where they're like, I'm going to be in this for maybe 5 years.
Definitely.
And I may kill myself and everyone around me for CTE, but
the likelihood of it is high. The likelihood of like having a life after football. I mean, they tell you, I mean, growing up when you're choosing sports to play, because, everybody plays sport. I mean, I'm assuming this is most places, but like everywhere, at least in America, you're going to be playing some sort of sport when you're young or like just being like kind of around it. And as, I was choosing sports and things like that, even in the 2000s, it was like, the arrow starting to be like, okay, maybe I'm not, putting my kids in football. We're starting to come about. And I was too scared. I was way too scared to like hop on the field because it was like, you're probably going to walk away from that with some sort of like brain injury or, if it wasn't your brain, then it's going to be your knees. If it wasn't your knees, then it's going to be your back. Like in terms of, I think tennis, I don't know how long they've been marketing themselves as this, but watching the U.S. Open, I was starting to see it on the court that tennis, calls itself, and I would assume is the healthiest sport that you can play. And
over baseball?
Baseball is pretty hard on your body.
Harder than tennis? They be running nonstop, hitting the ball.
Yeah, I think baseball is harder because you're just playing it so often. You're playing like
all the time. I did play softball for a very long time, and I got a really bad injury.
That's what I was like, wait a minute, what?
But I feel like I could have that same injury if I was playing.
Probably. I think you just play tennis. I don't really know. I'm not as familiar as tennis. I think you just play tennis a little bit less.
I feel like, no. They play like 4 Super Bowls a year back to back. Like it's like the U.S. Open and then Australia. I think it's just like, the lesser of all evils. I think sports on a professional level, period, it's not good for the body and isn't built for longevity. I'm glad we set that stage because I really wanted to talk about the characters because we get to see, someone at the beginning of their career, Kincaid, and someone at the end of their career with Zay. So should we call you Isaiah and him Zay or him Zay? Isaiah.
I feel like you said I'm Isaiah, so we could say.
I mean, you can right now be like, no, I'm Zay Dante.
Maybe I should be, yeah, okay, yeah. If on everything, I am Zay Dante, by the way.
Yeah,
but like, everybody. I guess, yeah, I should be Zay because I feel like they call him Isaiah more in the movie.
Then they call him Zay. He at one point says, "I'm Zay," like call me Zay.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're right. Nobody calls him Zay after, and I think it's because he's not around people who are close to him the entire film, right? So they're giving him deference. They're formal. So let's start with Cameron Cade, who is the main character played by Tariq Withers. What are your thoughts on it?
Oh, I mean, for Tariq's performance, first of all, in terms of like the authenticity aspect of everything, I was like, he did great. I thought he did so awesome because a lot of these people reminded me of, real life people. Go Birds, first of all. And he reminded me very much at the beginning of, Jalen Hurts, where it's just like, his whole life is kind of football. And then every single time Jalen Hurts is in an interview, he is giving a nondescript quote that seemingly does not really have anything to do with anything, but always comes back to, and we're gonna like win the game. Like, we're gonna weather the storm. And when we get off of the ship, we're gonna have a victory. And it's like, I don't know what that means, but at the end of the game,
he can throw that ball.
We winning. Yeah, at the end of the game, we winning. And, he's brought us to multiple Super Bowls since he's and
Jalen, I'm glad you brought up Jalen Hurts because I think that football consumes his life in the way that you're talking about.
Wonder, and I
hope definitely does. In his most recent Super Bowl win, right? It was this momentous occasion, right? They just lost to them, all that jazz. He won't even put the ring on.
Yeah,
he won't even put the ring on. He's like, we have another W coming.
Yeah, and also, but I also feel like that's part of the Philadelphia Eagles and this is what I think we're gonna end up getting into a lot with this, is talking about the culture of football. I truly do think the culture that is being, implemented in that locker room is that, it's not really as much about the accolades or about the wins or even just about, being able to say that we brought like a Super Bowl ring here. It's about building a dynasty, and it's about consistent winning over and over again, because the Eagles didn't win their first Super Bowl until 2018. At any point in time, no matter how much football is in my life or not, in terms of like watching it, I always know what's going on. So I remember, we had hired Doug Peterson, and he was our coach at the time for our first Super Bowl. And we had hired Doug Peterson, and I could see we were starting to get good, but I was like, there's no way, because the Eagles at that point just hadn't won anything. And, when we won that Super Bowl and we had like the backup QB, we beat Tom Brady. Like, that was such a momentous year, but it gets lumped into the like craziness of college. So I always forget the year, but I'm pretty sure it was 2018. It had to have been 2018.
The first time that the Eagles won a Super Bowl, you said.
Yeah, either 2017.
And I think that what you're talking about the culture around building a dynasty and not celebrating, I think that's the difference between the North and the South. It's just generally the culture is, the work not done, we not stopping.
Absolutely.
And I think that's interesting that that's the culture around the Philadelphia Eagles who are in Philly. And I also think that's why the choice to make Tariq Withers' character, Cam Cade, be from the South, right? There are so many choices that I felt were intentional just simply from the beginning, right? Them having the entire family in that room, celebrating the win like they personally knew Isaiah White. Tariq Withers, who's biracial and always plays a biracial person, was from one of those Southern light-skinned families.
Yeah.
And I felt like that also gave something different than him having a white mom and being like a Patrick Mahomes, right? He's closer to, and this is basketball, but like a Steph Curry type legacy family that almost feels like breeding, right?
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like when I see light-skinned Black families where every single person is light-skinned, I'm like, this feels like not eugenics, but breeding in that way. Like, we know that we're going to get certain privileges from these things. So it's not that they're anti-Black, but it's more like I'm trying to uplift and give, my children the opportunities. It's very nuanced when it comes to
For sure, yeah. And I especially like because we do all like come in all like shades and
but
colors,
to avoid all, but
yeah, no. Well, in the South, I do think that a large part of that was probably come from safety. You know, and like I imagine because you know, I mean, obviously, I did not come from like a light skinned family, but like when I have like light skinned family members and like light skinned sides of my family, you know, in Mississippi. And, you know, I imagine that a large part of that, I mean, like talking about like even looking at sinners in that sort of like regard of, and how they talked about, you know, people being mixed or just, you know, having lighter skin just in general. I'm sure that there was an element of like, we keep it light, we're a little bit safer, you know, like in that world, because a lot of it, you know, was, you know, just for this in like black people in the South, just in general, it's just always been about survival.
So what do you think motivates Cam?
I mean, he says it himself. Every like Southern man is the only like way that I like, even if they don't necessarily live by it all the time, but it's definitely taught to me is family. You know, it's just like at the end of the day, and this is why I was really happy that the movie was made in this way and spoke to this experience, is that it is almost like, you know, football in some sort of way feels like going to war, or even like that's
how they were talking about it.
That's how you talk about it.
Valor, guts, glory.
Yeah, honor.
Even if we look at, I don't want to talk too much about Isaiah White, but when Cam meets him and he's working on that, he's skinning an animal or whatever, his padding is hung up like armor.
Yeah.
You know, all around, like the way it's framed, the way I was like, I've been to museums and seen it framed and lit. Armor, like suit of armor the same way. And that was the way that it looked like it was, you know, pushing like, we are going to war. I am a warrior with all these accolades.
Well, like to speak to the point of like of what this job is and knowing what you're going to get out of it, is that a lot of the time when you're playing football, you know that you're probably going to walk out of it with a worse life afterwards.
Or you may die. Like,
genuinely. I mean, people have died. I mean, Damar Hamlin died on the field like 2 years. I think that was like 2 years ago. And then he was, you know, back playing again.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, because now you're talking about resurrection. And So he dies on the field.
He died on the field, or he died a little bit after he got off of the field. But then, you know, he came back to life, and then he's back.
And it said football.
Football.
What caused him to die?
I forgot what it was. I think it was a heart thing. I think it had something to do with like.
And then he flatline died, and then like he
died for like a couple of minutes. He got
slammed.
He got slammed.
Well, and like he probably had a pre-existing condition.
Yes.
Like,
stopped in his heart.
Yeah, and he died for like it was like a couple minutes, right?
Yeah.
It was for a couple minutes, and they canceled the game.
Came back?
A year. he was back. He was back the next year.
He said a year. I got it. And
I
think that's something that they stress so much, right?
And we celebrated it.
it.
He came back. I was like,
in the beginning of the film, Cam injures himself severely in the head, which we know is like one of the most vulnerable places for a football player. And the doctor is recommending that he not play football. And she says, as a doctor, I can't recommend you do this. And then his response is, and as a fan.
To speak about it, it's like, you know, I think what motivates Cam is the fact that he feels like he is there's a line in the movie that I think is like encapsulate this so well, which is he's sitting in with the doctor. The doctor like comes into the room, and the doctor says, I am so sorry about how talented you are, because when you are that talented and when you are that good at a sport, and people first of all know that from a young age, you know, they can tell. It's like, oh, that guy can catch, oh, that guy can block, oh, that guy can throw, he needs to be on the field, and you're done. Like, in terms of like what you're able to do in life is like, nah, you're gonna be playing football, because that's the only way that we could make money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, or like possibly, you know, there's a meme that Michael Irvin said. He used to play for the Cowboys. And it's a really, really funny quote, but I do think that it's also it really like speaks to the football experience is that you either gonna run this route or you're gonna go back to the ghetto.
Yeah,
It's like you got to figure it out because this is kind of the only way. And I feel like it kind of bleeds into other things as well. And it comes to like, you know, rapping or when it comes to like doing music is your talent locks you in because now you're not only playing for yourself, you're playing for your family, you're playing for your state, you're playing for the South, you're playing for all of it. You know what I mean? And to like go back to like the Jalen Hurts of it all, like Jalen Hurts played for Alabama and he played for Oklahoma. And I forgot like which order, but both of those are like, you know, SEC teams. And like his mindset of like, I'm going to go out there, play football, we win, and I'm going to do it over and over and over and over again is the culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just the way that it is. And it's like, do I wish that he could, you know, take a break and be like, I'm going to enjoy the Super Bowl win? Absolutely. But I doubt that that'll happen until he has probably 8 or 9.
Like 25, 26.
Yeah.
And I was like, this man looks 40. Like the way that he holds himself and presents himself seems very old.
Yeah.
And I get that. But there's so much identity that's tied to being a football player and the pressure that comes with it. And to your point, it's you run this route or you get out the ghetto. I think what was important about characterizing Cam and his family was that they clearly didn't have that much money, right? We see the wood paneling, you know, but they're clearly not, you know, part of like a crime syndicate. Like they're a clean up and up family, right? His father's in the military, something else that, you know, preys on people who need money and need a way to get out. And just everything around it showed that, he's from the hood or he's hood adjacent and it was ingrained in him from when he was young. This is what you do, right? And they talk about it. They're like, we groomed you to do this. We saw your talent and we moved from it. Do you think he is actually religious? And this is something I've been researching football. I've been looking at it just to prepare for the film. And God is talked about so much that it does feel cult-like. And obviously, like, religion and cults, you know, share a line. But the way that people mention God so frequently in every aspect of the way makes me wonder how much do they believe in it, right? It's unchallenging, it's unyielding. And with Cam, I wondered, like, is he religious or has he been religious by proxy? Like, is religion just been such a huge part of his life and has such a tie to his identity as a football player that he has to follow that way, you know?
I mean, if just based off of, you know, my experiences just growing up, I would assume, I feel like there is a stigma about the South and about religion, which I don't think is a unfair stigma to have, but I do think that it is a stigma of like how like people in the South think about religion. And like to the nature of this point, I bet he's religious, but I don't think that it's necessarily like a thing he's thinking about. Like for me, you know, I was in churches the same time as I started going to school. You know what I mean? I would say like I was getting homeschooled. I had started off like being homeschooled. And that was like around like 5 or 6, like whenever you go to kindergarten, like first grade. And that was also around the time where, you know, I was going to kids church, you know, and it was like, for me, you know.
What is kids church?
I mean, it's just church but except it's just, you just send the kids to the.
Like Sunday school. Sunday
Yeah.
school. Okay. I was like, kids church is different. Yeah, I'm Catholic, so we do like Sunday school.
Yeah.
But it was at the same time as like mass, and we go to a room.
Yeah, you just go to a room and then you do coloring. You color Jesus and
Color
Noah's Ark and stuff like that. But you know, like for me, I kind of knew since I was young, I was like, I'm probably not going to follow this. Like, I don't really love going to church every single Sunday. I don't love how much time it like takes up. I mean, especially like when it's just like when you're in school and you got to go to school Monday to Friday, and then it's like you have the weekend, but then one day is dedicated to now I got to wake up at 8 a.m., go to church, and then we're there in church till 3, and then you like, you know, you come back and possibly, you know, are doing more church. But usually what like our schedule was I would go to church in the morning, come back, and then we watch football. But like that I feel like when I grew up and I like went to college, I wasn't like, now I'm leaving the church because I like hate it and they've done all these things. Like it was more so I was just like, I just don't really like it. You know what I mean? But it was still part of my like language, like, you know, being like, oh, like, thank you, God, or just like even feeling like, you know, knowing just like prayers and things like that. There's a thing that he does in the movie before he goes on the field where he does like this and then, you know, like looking up. And that's just
and I've seen it so many. He touches it, does a sign of the cross, and he runs on the field. But we only see him do that once, which is at the beginning of it, which is great. I want to get into Isaiah White and his characterization and just your thoughts, because he also, I feel like, has a way more complicated relationship to religion. I'm wondering, they don't really get into Isaiah White's history. So, I mean, I guess going off Marlon, I assumed he was Northern. And just because his accent and his overall attitude, I feel like I'm watching someone from Philly interact with someone from Georgia in the same field and see that.
But he played most of his career in Texas, which would mean that he was probably
Isaiah White.
If he played for the Sabres, it was the San Antonio Sabres.
Oh, you're right. So,
yeah, he played
15 years. But that, I mean, that doesn't undo your perception and your learning, right?
Yeah.
I think that pushes him to be like, I got to talk about God. I got to do these things, but it's not a part of my culture the way it would be for someone who's from Texas, right? He made sure he was very clear to Cam, this is what a QB does. Yeah. This is what a franchise player does. This is how someone who leads a team acts. And I think that hints that there's something insidious with the way that he interacts and speaks.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow,
like,
that's not something I really thought of. So you think it's more so like he was putting on like a character?
No, I think there's something, like he told Cam at one point, for me, it's football, family, God, right?
Yes, yeah. When the thing is the other way.
Yeah, whereas God, family, football, right? And I think that was him acknowledging that, right? He was like, God is the last thing on my mind of the things that go on in my life, right? Football is his job, his career, essentially his life. His family is his relationships. And then at the bottom is God and his relationship to God. Yeah. And I think he was saying that to tell him, like, truly, one, you have to prioritize football. But also you have to acknowledge what God is, right? Because he talks about his relationship to God, his like disdain for God, and about how he felt like a God.
Yeah, how about he wants to become one.
Yeah, and that directly conflicts with, you know, being Christian, right? There is no other God. There is no other.
I mean, I think American Christianity is. I don't think it's actually much different. I think like the saying, you know, when they said the saying is, you know, God, family, football. But you know, it's the saying. Like
I feel like as like Catholicism and things of the like, you can't even. God is this being that we can't even say his name truly in vain, right? So we could never even put ourselves on the platform to say, I'm trying to become God, I'm on this level. That's blasphemous. And that's why I was talking to you, like, this is a lot of blasphemy here. We would never compare ourselves to God. And if you did, that's because you don't revere. We don't even talk to God directly, Catholics. We got saints telephoning our prayers. Like, you gotta pray to St. Francis to be like, yo, I'm really hungry. I need some prosperity here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So to me, hearing him be like, I'm liking myself to God, or I'm trying to be close to God in that way, I was like, oh, he don't care about religion.
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like that's I feel like it's so weird to be like Southern Christianity feels less formal, because I'm like, or at least like
it feels
like,
more. Yeah,
I'm like,
actually, yes. Southern Christianity does feel so much less formal. I went to school in the South, And I had to go to church, not because I wanted to, but like if you want to date, if you want friends,
it's part of the
and you
culture.
don't go to church, then people are like, you're a weirdo. And I was calling it Club Jesus when I talked to my family at home.
Yeah.
I was like, they got a full band here.
Yeah.
It was a
I was
party.
having fun.
There's a meal, like a full-on meal after, and it was shocking to me. I was like, and then even like going to like Bible study and stuff like that, felt like, you know, a D&D session or something like that. We're like, we're talking about text. We're breaking it. It's like a book club.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you guys have a way closer relationship to God than at least Catholicism does. That's the only thing I can really talk about, where God is this, you know, vengeful, mightful, you know, person that you're trying to impress essentially. And, you know, you're living your life to be your best version, but we're not conversing with him. We're not dissecting his work. We're studying it. But I think that's interesting. And like, I think the difference between the two, I agree. I think he's been in the South.
We talk straight to God. And I feel like in because when I was growing up, you know, I mean, we eventually became non-denominational, but at first I was going to like, you know, Black Southern Baptist churches, and you're speaking to, it's less about, I mean, God is still vengeful and jealous. That is a teaching, you know what I mean, that you cannot revere any other God before him. But you were speaking directly to him. Yeah, he's also a savior.
Y'all making rap music. Like, y'all making, you know, rock, Christian rock and stuff. Like, no, sure. You're not going to hear Catholic Christian.
Gospel. I mean, it's about, but I think, you know, that comes from the roots of where it came from. And the movie even speaks about it as well, about like, you know, first spoiler, get it, but like, the religious aspect of how like these owners use religion to be able to
manipulate
and groom like these players into what they want to be, you know what I mean? Or, you know, what they want them to be. And that is an aspect of, you know, in the same sort of way that, you know, Christianity was pushed on slaves, you know, like in the way of just like, you were made and you were created by God to serve, you know, your master. So like, that's part of it. But what that ended up leading to culturally, especially in the South, is that Jesus and God is going to get you through everything, you know what I mean? And like,
I definitely think that football overall is just a Christian sport. It's a very Christian, like, do they say a prayer before?
A lot of teams do, but if you watch like any, especially like SEC football game, at the end of the game, they're going to interview the quarterback or they're going to interview whoever played best. And the first thing that you say 99% of the time is, first of all, I want to give God all the glory. That's going to be the first thing that they say. And it's really interesting talking to people who like did not grow up in that world, because to me, I'm like, that's just how you, you know,
and it's like, well, when I see like God being brought up, you know, period. On something publicly shared, I'm like, oh, this is, you know, in New York, that's not a thing. Like, even during Christmas, we don't even say Merry Christmas anymore. We say Happy Holidays. Versus like when I was in North Carolina or Arkansas, if I said Happy Holidays, people would get mad. Like they'd be like, "Whoa, it's Merry Christmas," and I'm like, I'd be like, "What if you're Jewish? I don't know what your jam is."
Exactly. I'm like, we should be more open, and that's why I really like the movie for the critique, the religious critique of it, because it felt like it came from a place of understanding, where I feel like a lot of the times it's like sort of just looking at it, not getting it, not understanding where it comes from, and then judging it for that, which I do think is fair, but at the same time, I am less interested in critiques from people who don't get it than I am interested in critiques from people who do. Who
understand. I mean? Yeah, and I mean, I navigate with that in a lot of things, right? Where, you know, if people say I hate sinners and they're not Black, I'm like, all right, sure,
exactly. It's like,
I'm like, and that's on you. That's on you. Right. You know, I get it. You know, I hated Poor Things or whatever. Like, I get it. This is a perfect time to bring in a fun fact.
Oh wow!
So Isaiah White did win 8 rings.
8 rings.
Never has happened in NFL history, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Tom Brady has 7.
He has 7.
I believe that they brought in 8 rings. The fun fact is, in the Bible, the number 8 symbolizes new beginnings, resurrections, and spiritual regeneration.
Yeah.
So I think the number 8 is significant for those reasons, especially since, you know, spoiler again, is that, you know, he's kind of grooming Cam to replace him.
Yeah.
And I do think this is where we get into some of the cons. I'm not quite sure what it meant. Like, was he trying to take over Cam's body? Was he?
Yeah.
Was it a spirit? Was it a talent?
Yeah.
You know, they don't really get into what that meant. Like the guy before me, you know, does he have the thought processes of, like, does he share a mind, like a hive mind with all the former
I was interested
quarterbacks?
in that as well.
But what do you think his relationship was with Cam? Do you think he was grooming him in earnest? Like he really was like, this is my successor. Do you think Cam was presented to him? You know?
I think, you know, for me, when I was watching it, football, and we're doing a fantasy, me and my friends are doing a fantasy football league this year. So I'm like, and this is my first time doing fantasy because usually I'm mainly just like watching and for the Eagles. But and just being able to, and having stake in watching other games and being like, oh, this is important because I want this player to do well. It's made me think of football in the way that it is like a gladiator sport, which is what they're playing into. You know, where it's like we're betting on these people to do like this thing and we're watching them in this coliseum and, you know, there's all these like screaming fans and things like that. And I do think that there is an aspect of being a competitor where it's like, I just want to be the best.
Yeah.
You know, like there's not, I feel like what he saw, what Isaiah saw in Cam was the next guy who people wanted him to be next. And for him, it's like, I'm not the best unless I beat him. You know what I'm saying?
Unless you beat Cam.
Unless you beat Cam.
Do you think there was some resentment between Cam and him?
I think there was both. I think in a good rivalry, there's both. There's resentment and respect. You know, and I think that I don't think that he would have even brought him to the compound if he didn't believe he had the ability to be the greatest.
Do you think he had a choice to bring him to the compound? I like, I felt like, you know, the powers that be was like, this is our chosen one. Bring him to the compound. Yeah. And let's try the ritual. And truthfully, the ritual started, right? Yeah. They started that ritual on him. Yeah. So I'm not sure he said, let me see if he still got it. The ritual started when Cam got injured. Yeah. So I think from then on, he was deciding to bring him to the compound to complete the ritual. But I'm not sure if that was Isaiah's choice. That could have been, sure. I think that was, you know, the owner's choice where they're like, this is who it is. We're going to injure him. Get ready. Prepare the stuff.
For sure.
And that really gets into Elsie, who's his wife. Yeah. There were other choices in casting that I thought, you know, was purposeful. Casting Julia Fox is a statement in so many ways. Yeah,
she did awesome.
I actually really love Julia Fox, and I got that from interviewing her and then subsequently reading her book because she was this enigma. Yeah. But a couple things to know about Julia Fox, especially for those of you at home who may not know, she did admit to having an arranged relationship with Kanye West, who at the time was one of the biggest rappers and still is one of the biggest rappers of all time. And, you know, having that and propelling her career, the people that she typically plays in roles like Uncut Gems and in this is of the trophy. You know, and in this, she is that trophy wife. But what was interesting about that character was not only was she the trophy, but she was a player in this, right? She was a participant. She was part of, you know, the ritual to the point where when she brought Cam to meet the people, Isaiah didn't come. She was the only one to come. And I thought it was interesting that not only casting Julia Fox to be this person, but a white woman just period to be Isaiah White wife. Say that 3 times, right? Versus like Cam Cade having a black girlfriend and just how they interacted with their partners and how different it was, right? Julia's entire thing, Elsie's entire motivation was the legacy. You know, what is the brand? What are we doing? How do we push that forward? How do we make sure everyone's comfortable? Things like that. What does this look like? Versus like, you know, in the small interactions we see between Cam and his girlfriend, she's encouraging him. She's letting him know it's not all football.
You could leave it behind if you want to.
Yeah, which is like not fabulous, right? So what do you think Do you think that's any significance there? Do you think that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Julia Fox's character, and this is why, like, what I wanted from the movie, I wanted more of the background of the lore of the magic of all of it, and how like she played into it, because for me it felt like a play on just like black football players just having like white
wives and how they act, right?
And how they act.
I think I immediately thought of Patrick Mahomes' wife being like fried chicken. That's etched in my brain.
And
being like Mexican food is actually my favorite. I'm like, who's cooking for you, Patrick Mahomes? We got our producer again laughing because the fried chicken was wild. The fried chicken was the wildest.
The fried chicken was nuts. The fried chicken was nuts, and I mean, just
versus like, his rival Jalen Hurts.
Versus Jalen Hurts has
a black girlfriend, right?
Black wife,
you're not gonna see her screaming fried chicken.
It just is not gonna happen. It's just like a significant like cultural difference, and I feel like that was really like going to a head like in the Super Bowl, and now there's this this rivalry as well.
And I feel like some of that is grooming and like how some women are raised to marry a football player.
For sure.
I grew up in New York, so it was the opposite. Like when I finished college and I came back to New York and I was working, I was still, very young. But I had people that I worked with who knew exactly what bars to go to. We'd be like, if we want to meet some FI hedge fund people, we're gonna go to this bar. We're gonna dress this way. Like she was putting me on game. She was like, we're gonna dress this way, and we're gonna order these specific drinks, and we're gonna talk to the FI people, which is financial district hedge fund people, this way. She was like, we're gonna go to this bar. They're NBA. Nobody cares. Giants or the Giants.
I was like,
damn, let me get a Jets player. Even though the Knicks suck, we still was like, like when I was young, it was like, dang, what's his name? I won't say their names, but let's go see some of the Knicks players,
for sure,
and date them and stuff, and maybe we'll end up in California.
Absolutely.
And I think that really plays into Elsie's character, where she has been groomed and created, and exists to date this football player. And I think that's also why Isaiah pressed Cam later about like, did you fuck her? Like, did you date her? Because he knows what she's here for.
And it's like is this, and him kind of wondering like, is this the next stages? Like, is this, he's gonna take literally everything. Like, is this what I'm fighting for? And I found like that scene where he asked that really interesting, because it was just another one of those things where it didn't seem like he was actually mad or like threatened by it. It was more so of like, we're upping the stakes of the game. But Julia Fox had a really funny line that I was like, wow, damn, it just feels like, they are really like playing into this really well, where she's like, more money, more problems. That's what Biggie, did somebody say that? Biggie or whatever?
Or whatever.
It's like, oh my God, it's like the minimal like sort of involvement in black culture that, a white wife can have. And, still be a major like part of this world, it was really, really interesting. I thought the way that she played that role was really
Julia Fox is a gem, and people be playing her, but I'm like, no, y'all don't know. This girl, she has a persona. I think she's very different at home, especially reading her book. I think she has a persona she figured out. I think she started her like media career through that Kanye West, and she just kind of soared that way. And I respect someone, because then it gives you a chance to have a life at home. And to create a character where you don't blur the lines of who am I versus who am I in the public opinion. I am glad that you said that Isaiah doesn't seem mad. And I agree. I don't think he was mad. I think it's a resonation. Like, he's like, damn, we're upping the stakes. This is a decision on whether or not I can make it past that eighth ring, because that may be the end. It's exciting, but it's also like, you're understanding down to the war thing, right? You go to war knowing full and damn well you may die. And that there is a high chance of you dying. And I think Isaiah knew that. He was like, at the end of this, I'm probably going to die.
Yeah.
But there's an excitement in the way that I'm so glad you brought up war, in the way that you would feel in war, that like, but if I'm better.
If I come back,
if I come back,
I'm a god, you know, and that's exactly what it
yes.
feels like. I imagine for like a gladiator, like entering the arena is just like you resign yourself. And there's a line that Isaiah has where he, in the sauna, I think it was, where he looks at Cam and he's like, if you are in prison starving to death and someone comes in and they offer you food or freedom, do you have a choice? And that really encapsulates, I feel like, sports, but especially football. Just that experience of being poor in America and this being your way out, if it being just like, I have no choice but to put my body on the line. I didn't have any choice to put my life on the line and my brain on the line because I can throw a football. And I can, because of the fact that I can throw a football, everybody in my family for generations to come is good. You know what I'm saying? We'll never have to have any sort of financial problems again. And that probably means that I'm not going to live a full life.
And that makes it dystopic in the way of like The Long Walk or Hunger Games, right?
Yeah.
Where the what's the word? Shoot. The likelihood, the probability of you doing well is so insanely low. But if you win, if you do well, you will be rich beyond your wildest dream. You'll have fame beyond your wildest dream for a short period of time. And that's the deal you make essentially with the devil. And I love that the imagery was so mixed where it was kind of satanic because the deal you are making is with the devil. But they're also propelling your love of God and religion, right? To God is giving you this gift.
You know
what I mean? Like this is ritualistic. We are exploiting you. But we are exploiting the gifts that
God-given
gave
talent.
You.
Your God-given talent. And it would be wrong to not use it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how it feels.
Look at how many people you're disappointing. Look how many people you're employing. You know, and what I very much enjoyed, especially when it came to Cam, and you know, the deeper he got into it, where his family was not around. Everyone he loved, everyone he knew, not even his friends were not around. Who was around? His sports agent. And Julia Fox. Like he was surrounded by people who were white, with the exception of the football players. And, you know, they were pressuring him, manipulating him to do worse and worse things. And it was all under, how bad do you want this? You know?
Exactly. And, you know, I think there's a scene in there where they are interviewing him and they're doing the media training portion of things, and they have Cam telling this story about how his father died, and a lot of it is just him repeating the same thing over and over, like I let him down by not playing football, and and then a couple of months later he died, and when I'm on the field it just feels like it's not real, like I'm the only place that I feel at peace is when I'm on the field. And then they zoom out and it's all of the interviewers like putting mics toward him, and it looks like The Last Supper. And it's like the religious aspect and the religious imagery of football and the pressure that we put on these kids. Because at this time, like a very important thing to remember is that Cam he's going to the league, so he's
21.
At most 21, 22. He's at most 21, 22 and has been playing football. He's been playing football his entire life.
Which means that he was institutionalized. And I think that that's something that they show when he's on the compound, and just in general. I know this from playing sports seriously. Your life becomes so structured that when do you have time to make decisions on your own? When do you have time to explore, to get an identity? You wake up first thing in the morning, you're playing football. You go to class, you have a break, you're doing something. And we see that. He's in the tux doing chest ups, bench presses. Because your body is not just your instrument, it's your identity. And it's the only thing, it's your currency. And so like, how do you push outside of that? How do you live? How do you think outside of that? And that's how they use that to, you know, put impressions on it.
Absolutely.
I do want to get into, I think that this is the perfect time to bring into the themes. I feel like we talked mostly about religion, like football as a Christian sport, the way that they weaponize it. I do want to ask you, can you name me any football players that are atheists?
They don't. They don't be talking about it.
Off the top of my head.
Nah.
They can't be.
Check for you.
You can check. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about a Jewish football player? A Muslim one? A Sikh?
There's definitely some Muslim ones.
Yeah, not with a name. Don't be like Abdul whatever. Like, I want one that's like, I fuck with Allah. Thanks for Allah for bringing me.
I mean, there's definitely I don't know them by name, but there are definitely some Muslim ones, but it's not spoken. As
they
much
don't
as
speak about it.
No,
Okay,
no.
yeah.
Not about Christianity.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on stand culture and worship?
And that was the aspect that I was like, damn, I'm really wondering about what this lore is, and I would have loved for them to have delved into this more, because fans is such a massive part of this, and it was like so interesting to see the way that they like interacted with the players, and I was like, a lot of it was, oh, this looks like a horror movie. Like, this feels like so crazy. They're like following the cars and they're spitting at him like when he's inside the car. But that is 100% true.
Yeah.
Like, that's not an exaggeration or like, oh, this is like a horror movie thing. It's like, for a lot of people, football is their entire life in a very, very unhealthy fashion, to the point where they don't see football players as people. And what the people who are outside of Isaiah's compound, they didn't really like seeing Cam come in, because they don't want to see Isaiah retire. They want to see him go on and be the GOAT forever. And like, it's sort of like the Michael Jordan versus LeBron debate, where it's like, you're never going to convince a Michael Jordan. LeBron could win 80 more rings. You're never going to convince him. Yes, they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you, well, he did it against Scrubs.
All to say, they get upset, sometimes violent, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, to your point, they really could have explored that more, because I even seen like in the Knicks, when we made it to the playoffs, people pulled Timothy Chalamet out of his car. You know what I mean? Like, the streets, you couldn't walk the streets of downtown. One of the most richest areas of Manhattan, which means the richest area in New York City.
Yeah.
We was active. People were climbing things, breaking, right? They grease poles because, like, if a team wins, whatever. When I was in elementary school, the Giants won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And they canceled school.
Catholic
school.
And that game was one of the best Super Bowls.
Yeah. I don't even like football, and I remember that Super Bowl.
That was one of the best Super Bowls of all time.
The next day, they were like, school's canceled. We had gotten an announcement. We got the call. School was canceled. And people just celebrated. Everybody went to the parade.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was like, the way that we propel football, even making the Super Bowl something that even people who don't watch football have to participate in.
For sure. And with that being said, we're talking a lot about the negatives of this, but I want to say as well, like, I think that sometimes the conversation, and this kind of like goes into like, I'm less interested in hearing the opinions of people who like don't really know about it as much, are only willing to view it from like an outside perspective. Because from an inside perspective, like, a lot of the times I feel like there is a feeling, like an elitist feeling when it comes to like, I don't like sports, and I think that people who like sports are like beneath me in that sort of regard. And I'm like, that doesn't feel fair to me, because for a lot of people, it's like, if you're staying in your hometown, and I know like a lot of people from this, like, I moved out to LA because like I didn't really want to be in South Carolina no more. But there are plenty of people who are still in South Carolina living great, fulfilling, healthy lives, not dealing with a lot of problems that I have, like, from being out here. And, moving here, moving to like a big city and like, chasing your dreams and things like that. It is not always like what it's cracked up to be. And it's like, it has a lot of problems in itself. And I know that I know a ton of people who I knew them like in school, and they were like, all I want to do is like, I want to have a family, and I want to be here with my kid, and like, I want to live like a very like just chill and relaxed life here. And for people who are there, like, these things mean something. Sports means something. It's like, I was like, when I was younger, one of the best time, like one of my favorite holidays was Thanksgiving, because it meant that we was going to the family house. They were making gumbo and we was watching the Cowboys and the Saints game.
The men were watching.
You know what I'm saying? Well, it was everybody.
Cowboy,
It was
really.
everybody.
I feel like the women were cooking.
For sure.
And then we're sitting down watching football.
No, facts. And there's definitely like, and that is, I think, fair. Like that's what I think is like a fair criticism from like the inside. I'm like, now we can get into that conversation about misogyny. We can get into the conversation about men being violent. We can get into the conversation about people putting themselves into this game in an unhealthy way. That's the conversation that I'm interested in having. But when it's just like I don't like these people for this, like, because they're celebrating this cultural event and there's nothing deeper than that. I'm like, that doesn't make
I will
any
say
sense.
this: people are like that with everything, right?
For sure. And
I'm in the fandom,
definitely.
so I like comic books, and people talk about comic books or comic book movies.
Exactly.
Like they're so highbrow, or they interact with me like I'm not intelligent because. You know, I cover comic book movies.
Football players do it about art.
Yeah,
all the time. Like, fans of sports, do it about art. And I'm just like, for me though, I've never seen the difference. I'm like, for me, it's all culture, and that's what I'm a lover of. You know what I'm saying? I really love. I mean, I love the aspects of culture that are positive, and I'm interested in like critiquing it from a place of just like, how can we make it better and we make it a better experience for everybody? You know what I mean? Where we're able to enjoy something, because I'm like, at the end of the day, watching that, and football being an extremely unhealthy sport that has a lot of problems that we need to be discussed. I love football. I'll be watching football till the day that I die. That game is so beautiful. And when it works, when you're a fan of a team and you've been following them, like, especially like when I was like growing up, is, it's not far-fetched. And we were talking about what inspires these people to, play this sport, and it like being so dangerous. And there is a level of like, they are getting taken advantage of. But at the same time, when you're growing up and you see these people, Cam had Isaiah White on the wall like he was a superhero. And to me, when I was growing up, like the Philadelphia Eagles, they were superheroes to me. Yeah. And it was just like on a random, like you would just be walking down the hall and just be like, because it's just like the actions, the motions of there's a guy right now who goes to QB who goes to the University of Nebraska, and he's light skinned and clearly sees Patrick Mahomes in himself, and he has just copied everything Patrick Mahomes does. Like he walks out, he does the same jump and whatever, and it gets to a point where it's like, all right, let's build your own identity. But at the same time as well, it's like, I get where he's come. Like that's like a superhero to you,
I think it's interesting that you describe the game as beautiful. Yeah. Some may argue that your love of football makes you complicit in the exploitation of these players. Definitely. So I really want to get into the Gladiator aspects. Yes. Because I do think, particularly with football, I understand what you're saying. I do think that some people judge football fans specifically because they're Southern, and like we associate it with being Southern, and there are negative stigmas that come with being Southern, especially religious Southern people, right? For sure.
And some are justified.
Some are justified.
Some are justified, but I do,
I think a bigger thing, and the reason why I didn't want to get into football, even when I was researching it, was because of the way that they exploit players, and the nature of the game itself is so hyper violent. Absolutely. We watched a game. What was it? It was like the Ravens.
We watched the Ravens and Bills.
And the Bills. Insane game. It was dynamic. It was interesting. It was. I felt like I was watching Gladiators.
That's a championship game.
It felt like a championship game. I was watching.
15-point comeback. Josh Allen.
And we think about the way that we respond to football, right? Even me, someone who doesn't understand the game, I don't know what the line of scrimmage means and shit like that. But it still elicits this animalistic, response from you, because I watched a man fly in the air, get hit, fly in the air for 5 feet and fall on his back. Yeah. And for me, I wanted to scream, like, I wanted to go more. I'm like, I watched them get tired after getting hit for a while. And I was like, damn, they're tired. They got 4 minutes left. They may lose this game. And I'm watching these men really hurt themselves and continue to play.
For sure.
And I became a part of that machine where I wanted them to play more. I'm like, dust that shit off. You got to do better.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the nature of sports overall. But particularly football, that is so contact heavy. Even myself, my injury happened when I was playing softball because I injured myself, and immediately my thought process was to walk it off. That is something that we're told in practice. That is something that we're told every day while we're playing. And it's something you're rewarded for if you do well, right? And then ultimately, I got injured. But 100%. Initially, I was like, walk this shit off.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And, you know, people can die that way. People,
for sure,
you know,
same
thing in wrestling. In wrestling, I'm a decent wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And with wrestling, not only are they told to walk it off, they put things in place where if you want to eat, you have to walk it off. There are no days off. There's no health insurance. I mean, things are slightly changing, but you know, you have to build your brand outside of there, become The Rock or Stone Cold or something, or you have to wrestle every day of your fucking life.
Yeah. And you're doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, these wrestlers are living until 40.
Yeah.
And the ones who are living to 40, they're killing themselves and their family, and they're doing this stuff. And I'm seeing that same thing happen in football where you know, you're shaking your brain.
The body is not, and they say that in the movie, you're not meant to slam your head into other people's heads for 16 weeks out of the year, every year. Like, that's just not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen.
So I wanted to get into armor and padding because we were talking about that after the premiere. Now, you mentioned to me off camera that padding is put there as a fallacy of protection. Is that true?
I mean, you know, it's both things, but when I learned something that was pretty crazy, which was that I forgot when I learned this, but it was a while ago. But football and rugby are very similar sports. But in rugby, you are not wearing a helmet, and there are actually pretty sure less injuries in head injuries in rugby than there are in football, because when you don't wear a helmet, naturally your body is going to be like, I'm not going to ram my head into this thing.
Yeah.
But when you have a helmet on, almost in the sort of way that I think they also do this to cattle. The game is it's extremely brutal in ways that I do think need to be changed. But when you have a helmet on, especially when you have a visor or whatever, you feel like, okay, I am now protected to the point where I can ram my head into this other person continuously and be completely fine with it. You know what I mean?
The same difference is shown between UFC and boxing. Even though UFC perceives to be more gory because you see the blood and stuff and the broken bones, you know, you stop yourself more and they have less concussions.
Exactly.
Because if I'm a boxer, I don't see what's going on with my hands. And I feel it a little bit less when I'm continuously, and I can hit your head more because of it. I did want to bring up another fact that we do see in the film. Football helmets for different positions vary in face mask design, which you mentioned, and internal padding. Linemen, who are the most interactive, often use helmets with heavy duty multi-bar face masks to protect their face from people grabbing it and stuff at the line of scrimmage, and adding padding to accommodate more direct impacts, which and they have obviously the highest level of CTE. I think that it's interesting that, you know, there's a very cool headbutting scene where Cam actually headbutts another football player, and it's after he makes a note that he's wearing a lineman's helmet. And I think that gives him the freedom, to your point, to be like, oh, I can hit harder because I'm wearing this lineman helmet. I think it's also used as a narrative device that he's disoriented because he has a visor and things blocking his view. Have you heard of guardian caps?
Guardian caps, which I'm all for. We have got to figure out a way to make them look cool because football players are not, because a lot of it also as well is...
Wait. You're going into a full thing about guardian caps and have not explained what guardian caps are.
Oh, yes. Guardian caps are this new thing that is supposed to prevent traumatic brain injury and you put it over the helmet. But the problem is, like, it doesn't necessarily look cool yet. Like, it's starting to just, get there. But it looks very goofy.
It looks worse than, for those of you at home, the helmets that babies use to shape their head.
Looks bad.
It's bad.
It looks bad. But I'm like, I wish the thing is, like, speaking to the point of, like, and this is where it really becomes an interesting conversation, right? Because speaking to the earlier point where I'm like, it is so beautiful that these people, like, have heroes, and it's like, seeing, like, a player, like having a player on your wall in that way is so cool. At the same time, you're gonna look less cool if you have a Guardian cap on. And when you, like, there's also a part of, like, being a football player, you gotta, like, these are people where it's like, I'm not gonna go out there looking like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go out there in front of 100,000 people and have this stupid thing on when I feel like I don't need it and I've been playing all my life, in that sort of regard.
And even if they feel like they should, the general public and the fans, chastise them for trying to protect themselves.
Definitely.
Couple of facts I got here. Steelers player James Daniel was the first player to wear a Guardian cap in game. The commentary around it was that he was a snowflake.
Yes.
Like, it's pretty dirty just for trying to protect himself. And now Kylan Granson from the Philadelphia Eagles has taken advocacy via social media to promote the helmet. I can tell you guys, as someone who's, outside of the world, I started researching the Guardian cap, and sports commentators, fans, the way that they're talking about it is as if they wanted to play in a thong. Like, it's
definitely
very interesting, the language that they're like, these guys don't want to play football. They're soft. They want to do this. And then to, like, see, like, Kaylin and James talk about it, and they're like, I just want to play till I'm 30. They're like,
exactly.
I don't
have a life after.
I don't want dementia when I'm 45.
And have a life after, I mean, football is I do not know how old football is, but it's if it's not over 100 years, it's like close to 100 years. We are just getting to the point where player health and safety is even a thing that is being considered. When I was younger, like, when I was playing Madden, there's a thing called a hit stick, and it was just about how hard can you want to hit a player until their helmet comes off. You know what I'm saying? That was such a large aspect of thing, and the game is so dangerous to the point. I have a very hot take on football where I'm kind of like, I actually feel like, and I think it's kind of starting to happen now with the Olympics, but I feel like a push for flag football is going to really start to take place over these next, like, couple of decades, because it's a safer version of the game.
So NFL players now qualify for football, which is making its first appearance at the Olympics in Los Angeles. And I'm really interested to see how the entire world is going to react to the sheer brutality of it.
Well, it's flag. It's going to be flag, so
they're still going to cook them. They're still, it'll
be interesting.
I think the disparity between American football players and the entirety of the world and the way that we interact with football is going to be vast.
For sure. Definitely.
And noticeable. In the way that the WNBA is so much more physical. I promise you I'm not into sports, y'all. It's so much more physical.
This is interesting. It's just interesting how many facts you have. You keep popping up with a fun fact every, like, 5 seconds. I'm like, wow. Absolutely.
It's written all here in words. The WNBA is just so much more physical than the entirety of the world, to the point where the entirety of the world are competing for second place because there's no way they're touching our 6'3" corn-fed women.
I mean?
And I'm very interested to see how that brutality is going to translate. But I think what's interesting about you saying, like, we should move towards flag football is that football fans diametrically are opposed.
They hate
to safety. It's down to that deal of the devil. We are going to make you rich for your 5 years of your life. And you'll be listless and you don't know what to do next. But we made you risk. You are a god. You are a superhero. We're going to talk about you. If you do make a mistake, though, we're going to say you're the worst thing to ever happen.
Absolutely.
I think Patrick Mahomes is a great example of that. I've been hearing so many things about the conversation around Patrick Mahomes before this last Super Bowl was about how incredible of a QB he was and like just how good he was. The second that the Eagles beat them, they're like, this is the worst QB in history I've ever seen. His flaws and everything were put onto display. And I'm not saying that he's not incredible, but the way the public was able to shift, I couldn't imagine how that felt for Patrick Mahomes, especially with his wife at home saying fried chicken. Feeding him fried chicken when he wants a quesadilla. I just couldn't imagine. I will never forgive her for that. Especially since if he said yes, I do love fried chicken.
If he had said yes, it would have been a different story. It was the fact that he said
Mexican
food.
Even if he said burger. If he said something else very American, I would have been like, so she should say watermelon. Where are we going here?
That was rough.
But yes. Speaking of culture, I wanted to end this with the ending that, are getting very bad reviews. Like, people did not like the ending. And I will say, when I first saw the film, they showed us the first 45 minutes. And when I watched it, I was like, this is on par with Sinners. And then when I saw the last part of the film, I said, maybe not. Because there was such a lack of lore and just so many pieces that I thought was lost. But I still really much appreciated the statement that the final scene was supposed to make, even though I think it was lacking something. So let's start with asking, who is Jerry Jones? Yeah,
Jerry
you're savior.
Jones, bro.
You're savior. I mean, I
Jerry
know
Jones.
Kimmel and stuff got us a little scared. You're savior. At least say who Jerry Jones is, because he's not in the film, y'all. But it is clear there's a parody.
He's in there.
I looked him up. The actor who's playing that
Jerry
character,
Jones.
I said, he looks exactly like Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and as an Eagles fan, I have loved what Jerry Jones has done with the team, because the team has not won in 30 years. I think the last time they won was 1996. And Jerry Jones is like, he has such a classic football mindset in liking it, where he treats his players like slaves. To be completely honest, he just traded away probably the best football player in the league, named Micah Parsons. He just traded him away because he wanted to do a backdoor deal with Micah, and Micah was like, no, I want you to talk to my agent, and we want to do this a normal way. I've been the member of the Dallas Cowboys for I don't know, since they drafted him, and he was like, I just want to be paid the amount that I'm like regularly paid. And they shipped him to Wisconsin.
That feels like a punishment, especially going from the weather of Texas to Wisconsin.
It was.
It feels like a punishment in every way.
And the people do that. I mean, like, if you anger an owner, they'll send you to Cleveland. And like at least they didn't do that. Yeah.
Green Bay, where it's fucking freezing.
Green Bay is at least a good football team. And he's probably gonna be compete. I mean, I hated that happened, because now we're probably gonna play them in the conference championship. But that's like, he's a very, and he traded him for essentially nothing, and he got his name wrong in like the interview. He called him Michael, in the interview, and it's just like Jerry Jones also when he was younger was very pro segregation. Like he was at like segregation rallies in that sort of way. And it's like, just an old white guy in that sort of regard. And the movie is like, the owner of the Saviors is like this old guy who has a son who, after he's gonna get taken over, after he dies, the son is gonna take over, and that's the same sort of situation with Jerry Jones. When Jerry Jones dies, it's gonna be someone from the Jones family who's gonna take over the Cowboys. But the Cowboys are and have been for a long time. They used to be called, I mean, they're still called, America's team. They just haven't won in a very long time, so that's sort of kind of a joke now. But or kind of seen as a joke now. But to their credit, they are probably, I think, still the most profitable.
They're definitely the mascot of football. Yeah. Like, if I think of a football team, if you ask someone about the football team, they're gonna say the Cowboys immediately. Some of it is because of the fans. Some of it is because the cheerleaders who. I did watch a couple episodes of a show about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders in preparation, and it was that same thing where they were starving these girls. You only got one uniform. If you gained a pound from, I don't know, turning 22 or something, you're no longer a teenager, you immediately was nixed off that team. It was that same thing, but it reflects Americana in the way that I think a lot of America wants to see it. And I think it reflects the game and the mentality of football in the way that a lot of football fans want to see. And I think Dallas, even though they're not getting the W, you know, they're reflecting the values that football
as a whole
fans want. But what's interesting about that is, okay, they're reflecting the values of it, but they're not winning. So perhaps those values are flawed. You know, the Dallas, I couldn't tell you one Dallas Cow. I couldn't tell you like anything about their routines, anything, just their uniforms. Inversely, we see other teams in the NBA and the WNBA kind of subverting what the American sport is. Yeah. And they're thriving, right? Yeah. Down to the Eagles kind of subverting it, to seeing quarterbacks start to run instead of just throw. Mascots like Ellie the Elephant. And I promise you I don't know nothing about sports.
I noticed I she brought me on here to be the sports dude. I ain't got none of these.
I am a nerd first. I looked at mascots like Ellie the Elephant, who are essentially, Ellie the Elephant is a black woman dancing around.
Yeah. Ellie the Elephant rocks.
And everyone knows who she is.
Elephant rocks.
She has outfits. She's getting people interested in the sport again. And there's nothing about the Dallas Cowboys that makes me interested about football. Like, I don't watch that team. I don't think, you know, this is a sport I want to see. And truly, even with the NFL trying to get viewers back because they're losing it, the Dallas Cowboy way is teetering off. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they're highlighting teams like the Eagles to be fun, to be people of color. Absolutely. And getting us, they're doing hip hop routines. Yeah. I don't want to get into hip hop in football because that would be another hour about, you know, Jay-Z has joined the NFL. Is
for sure. The capitalistic aspect. Well, I mean, I think you literally just said it. Like, football as a whole reflects the best and the worst parts, but especially the worst parts of American like society. And Jordan Peele at the premiere said something that I think really resonated with me. Well, like his like speech before the movie started was that he felt like this was a movie. He loves making movies that feel like they shouldn't get made because they're like going against something that is so you know, intrinsically like part of the like culture. And football, you know, is that for me. Like football is like
we saw them ruin Colin Kaepernick's career, and it was like for simply kneeling, like during a peacefully, not even really protesting. He didn't turn away from the flag. He still played respect to the flag, but by simply kneeling, he never played football again.
And tried this entire
and that I think that also ties to identity, right? Because he was rich. We always say it's money that's keeping it, right? But after he was fired, he got all these book deals, he got all this money, he was fine financially, but football still called him. He was like, I'm still a football player.
Because once you get over the money aspect of things, and this is what they don't, and this is the kind of part of the lifestyle that they don't really teach you about is once you get over the money aspect of things and you got that figured out, but you still have to figure out how to live life. And a lot of the times you're trained for football.
Your entire worth was being a football player.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like now that that's gone, even for retired football players, like, what's my existence? I could tell when I watched in research Tom Brady doing some sports commentating, like during the games. He does like side sports, and the way that he was talking about plays was one. I was like, this is why he's incredible. This is why he has so many rings.
That's the thing.
He was almost psychic. Like he'll draw and he'll be like, this means that and then like how he would read the film. But I can feel that love and that longing. And I mean, he lost his family. He lost the biggest supermodel of all time over it. And it's like that's what you give up.
But so, he's the GOAT.
So what he was the GOAT. He was the GOAT. Somebody else is gonna take it. So what do you think Cam's decision was in the end, and why was it important?
I mean, Yeah, and that's something that I was like interested in. I would have loved to have. I feel like he went back and played. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, what else do you even do? Even after you do all these things and whatnot
to dismantle the system.
The system.
They don't confirm it, but we did find out.
Yes,
I did some digging at the after party.
That
he does join the NFL after. It's not shown on screen, but that the original screenplay was written so that he does go to NFL after doing that deed. But I think that says a lot that, you try to dismantle the system, you cut the head of the Hydra, but you still are part of that system. He's still complicit and he's still joining it.
It's like what you said about me as a fan is that I'm going to be on this show being like, these are the problems with football, this, and this. And then I'm going to watch the Eagles game
tonight. And you're going to be like Goldbergs and you're going to yell. You're going to yell at Jalen if he's hurt and he's slow and agreed.
And all you can do is just try to be, better.
I feel you, right? I could criticize and talk about Beyonce all I wanted. Guess what? When that concert comes, I'm putting my savings.
But I do think that there is a level of it. It's like, if you are going to do that, the least that you can do, and what you should do, I think, is not only be self-aware of that, but then try to. I don't like when a scene players get hit no more. And they have a scene where he gives somebody a concussion and he starts fencing with what happens with your hands whenever you get too many concussions. And when that happens a lot with this quarterback named Tua Tagovailoa. And I was like, when he got hit one time, I was like, I pray he never plays football again. This is not safe. This is not. And there's a lot about football that I don't like and that I want to be safer, and then at the same time it's a thing that exists that you
can't take it. Let me tell you, I went to Renaissance and they propped Beyonce above us like a deity that we should worship. Guess what? I was there. I was there worshiping. I was like, I get why religious people really don't like Beyonce. Guess what? Cowboy Carter, an album that I thought was okay because I'm not into country, sad. It's like I can't break away from this thing. And to your point, I think that's a part of culture. So let's finish with pros, cons. And your rating. Here we do Frankie Flame.
Okay.
5 is no notes. 1 is and there's something lower than 1. I do Frankie Butts, it's ass. So on a scale of 1 to 5. What would you rate this?
I would give. Can I do half points? Or Okay. I would give this a 3.5 out of 5. Frankie Flames. I think it's a 3.5. I would have loved to have seen more from the lore. I would have loved to have learned more about the magic of it. I would have loved for them to talk more about the fan culture and things like that. But I thought the performances were incredible. I thought Marlon Wayans. That was
and some of the visuals were really good.
Were amazing.
If you guys are on my YouTube page, I did interview Justin Tipping, the director, and he talked about how he brought in a lot of slasher and horror imagery into some of the movements of football players. So some of the throwing of the football is supposed to look like slashing with a knife. There are just so many times where they take actual movements and kind of flip it to make it horror. I think it's great. What are your cons? I think we have the same cons.
I feel like the cons for me was I feel like there was some I just wish they had delved into
so
the magic.
More.
You know what I mean? And I question whether or not even I don't know if you even necessarily needed a magic or supernatural element to it, because I do feel like football in the
I would have loved, which you're right, they didn't establish. Because in the final, there's a shot where he there is shown to be a little bit of magic, and I would have loved, to your point, that there was no magic. That he was just giving him blood infusions because he's a weirdo. They had just groomed him and knew that he was gonna be whatever, and that they just killed. Quarterback. Quarterbacks just killed their predecessors. I think that would have been just as poignant, just as important without any magic.
I agree.
Made it more important.
I agree.
There's a show called Yellow Jackets where, and I didn't watch, they moved over to to Paramount. I didn't watch that season. I heard it's ass, so yay. But the first 2 seasons kind of exist on its own where you don't have to watch that season. And in it, the question becomes, there these girls in the wood who get stranded for a year after a plane crash, and there's this deity, this supernatural aspect to it that is forcing them to make them feral, to do whatever. And the question throughout the series is this psychosis or is it actual something supernatural? And I don't know if they answer it in that whatever season, but I love that question being out there.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, it don't matter.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
Yes,
It doesn't
yes,
matter.
yes,
And I
yes.
don't think that the film was able to really present it in that way. And
yeah.
that's unfortunate. And I think a big piece, if they really needed to end it, showing us that either he decided to never play football again, became an advocate,
Yeah.
or he joined football even after
I
like
would have
making
loved
that
to have
huge.
seen him just in a different uniform. I imagine he probably wouldn't play for the Saviors, but I bet he probably would go to play for
Anyone else, anyone else.
Yeah.
Either way, I appreciate it, especially since the day that Jimmy Kimmel got fired, we were watching it.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated watching a piece of art that just outwardly and overtly criticized an institution as
that's
large
what
as
I
the
really
NFL.
love, and the culture around football. It created a space for a conversation that I truly do feel like it needs to be had about football, where we all, like, as fans collectively, especially Southern fans as well, look at this and see it for what it is, and figure out some ways to make this a better, just better all around. You know what I mean? From the way that we teach our kids about football, the way that we intertwine it with life, and the pressure that we put on these athletes. I think there's a real conversation to be had there, especially for the world's unhealthiest game, for sure.
I love that. Isaiah, you've been so helpful. Yeah. Thank you for bringing your wealth of knowledge and experiences.
You knew more about sports than me, and I want that on record. I want that on record.
I
knew more about sports than me.
I am really good at my job, and thank you for the confirmation. I've been spending weeks studying sports, culture.
And did you enjoy it?
Chronically online. I
enjoy
lore overall. So anything that I put into the ether and I'm studying, like I'm on lobster talk, so I'm fucking with lobster and lore behind lobster. So I don't think that did I enjoy it. I enjoy researching. I'm a nerd in that way.
Interesting. Are you gonna watch more sports after this, do you think?
So this is not an interview of me. You know what I'm saying? This is not an interview,
and that's what
for me.
You know the answer.
I'll continue to watch wrestling. The Rock periodically hops in and out. I'm a huge fan of him. So in that aspect, perhaps. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This is so incredible. And I think that you brought a vision and a perspective that a lot of people need, especially when we're going through this film and dissecting it. I'm sure anyone watching this video knows who you are. You have like 2 million followers across platforms.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually very true. You said, which means that your impressions are millions and millions of people, because I have like 100 and something and I'm reaching millions of people. So I know you're reaching more. And also, fun fact, while we were at the premiere, he was like the Brandy influencers and actors. And when I say the Brandy, is that Brandy in the 90s was every celebrity's favorite celebrity. Like, that was Zay Dante. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, Zay Dante, you are hilarious. You are my favorite guy of all time."
You were the Beyonce
Again, it's not about me.
Right, sure.
So please tell everyone, where they can find you if they are under a rock.
Yes, Zay Dante on all platforms except on TikTok, where it is Zay Dante with 2 Y's. Because someone had the Zay Dante name, and hey, maybe
and
let's get in contact with him.
And they're posting your videos. And they're posting your stuff.
So I'm like, what's happening right now? The TikTok, let's get that worked out. But on everything else, Zay Dante on all platforms.
I love it. And Zay is Z-A-Y.
Z-A-Y-D-A-N-T-E.
All right. And those of you who just kind of stopped by because you wanted to learn more about him, or because you saw Zay Dante and was like, whatever, I'll listen. You can find me on all platforms at Fantastic Frankie, Frankey. I do things like this, break down shows. I don't talk about sports. So if you think I do.
But she should, and let's encourage her.
But if you think I do, you're going to be disappointed. But this has been incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
us. And I'll see you guys later. Like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what your thoughts are on the film overall.